Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. We are live. We are live on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. If you're on Rumble, please follow the channel. And I'm also on Facebook. Follow Facebook. Just go to the Hammer Podcast page and follow the page. Okay. Today is March 4th. 4th. Yes. Almost got it
Yes,
confused.
March
Almost got it
4th.
confused with the 5th. All right. Okay, March 4th, 2025. And today we are speaking with Sandy. Sandy went to the Family Foundation School in Hancock, New York. He was there 1995 to 1996. Am I correct?
98.
98. I'm sorry. Oh, my 8 looks like a 6. I'm sorry. 1995 to 1998. All right. And like I said, Sandy, I'll throw in a few questions for you, but just go ahead and start from the beginning. And I'm sure everybody wants to hear your story.
Sure, and
Okay?
this is live streaming.
This is live streaming. Yes,
Awesome.
We are live streaming.
So
we got 5 people watching right now.
Awesome. So if some of my classmates are watching, I went by Philip for that period of time. So but I've always gone by Sandy for my family. So I as Jason said, I went to the family school from 95 to 98, December 95 to December 98. So how I got there was, so a little bit about my background. I had a lot of trauma when I was young. So like my father died when I was like 9, suicide. My sister died when I was 10, cancer. Grandmother died the following year. So lots of trauma. And that kind of set me up. So I started using drugs around 13, mostly marijuana, Adderall before Adderall was really a thing. Let's see, LSD, pretty much anything I could get my hands on that age. I had my first run-in with the police. So that was 93, 94. I had my first real run-in with the police in 95. And, I was failing out of school, never went to class, was using drugs all the time, lots of problems, lots and lots of problems. So I was a prime candidate to go to the family school. The end, about in fall 95, I was sent to a wilderness program in New Mexico, which, as programs go, was probably a pretty good one. And so at the end of it, they found that I needed more help. And so my mom decided and got with, I'm not sure how, if the business of being an educational consultant is still a thing, but my mom had hired an educational consultant and found this place for me in upstate New York, family school. And that's how I ended up there.
Are you originally from New York?
I'm originally from New Jersey, so Princeton, New Jersey. Well, I was raised there. I was born in Connecticut, but from about 85 to 95, 84 to 95, I lived in New Jersey.
Okay. All right.
And so I got to the family school in December 95. And I don't know, coming from a wilderness program, I was probably just happy to be inside and warm. But my whole thing was, cause as little resistance as possible. Right.
Right.
I was, all about just like, disappearing into the wallpaper.
Okay.
In fact,
Just to let you know, Sandy, your favorite villain is watching.
Nice.
So
welcome.
Just to let you know.
Welcome.
Yes. Good evening to everybody who's watching.
Welcome. And so let me see. So
The wilderness
So
program.
I
Yeah.
was all about disappearing into the wallpaper, and they were not too happy about that. One of my things was, and also like another escape of mine was like I just completely escaped into schoolwork, um, and I did really well. That was, that was like where all my focus was. It was like, all right, fuck it. I can do well in school. I can get recognition for school. Let's just do that. And at one point they were like, the sanction that they decided was to take me out of school and to make me scrub floors.
Oh.
Which, like, when you think about it, like it doesn't, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like being in school and not being in school. Um, so there was that. They really like to tell me that, like, so it had about this time, it had probably been about 6 years since my father had died, and I never really processed it. And so, I started processing it, and I would cry, and they would tell me, after this went on for a while, they were like, listen, you've been talking about this too much. Shouldn't you be over it by now? And I really think, like, in hindsight, like when I was going through it, I didn't realize how crazy it was, but it was insane, right? So I think about it a lot. Like, there were no professionals. There was one psychiatrist. Actually, no, that's not true. There was uh, two. One was one psychiatrist that came once a week, who didn't see all the students. Only saw didn't I never saw the psychiatrist while I was there, and the other was a social worker, and that was it.
How
That was it.
qualified were they, though? That's the thing.
The psychiatrist, I don't know. I never talked to them, right? So, like, how qualified was, I won't say her name, or maybe I can say her name. Like, I mean, she's licensed, right? So it was
Sure.
Susan Runge, and that was the only other professional that was there.
Right.
Um, so as far as I know, and I think about that now, like that's insane. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That you're gonna leave your kid in some facility with no professionals. It's like, what?
Well, yeah, being that you did have some trauma, with
Sure,
your loved ones dying and everything,
sure,
there should have been some. And let me tell you something about that, because my mother died in 2020, and you never get over it,
sure,
ever.
sure,
Sometimes it's just a song that she loved. All of a sudden,
sure,
you hear it on the radio, and boom, you know what I mean? And it's always going to be with you, always,
sure. I had a dog that
always.
died in 2015,
Sure.
and I never thought I'd be so ate up, and I still think about
Yeah.
that dog.
Yeah.
That was 20 years
Actually,
ago.
my dog, I got my dog when he was 8 weeks old,
Sure,
and now he's 13. Trust
sure,
me, when he goes, I'm going to be just as,
sure.
as if it was a human. They're family. So, but yeah, when people say I'll get over it, no, you can't. You don't get over
No,
it. You
no,
move on, but you don't get over it.
sure, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Um,
Go ahead. I was a
no, no, that's
little bit
fine.
of
That's
a
fine.
tirade there.
I do really well with the interaction, so it's all good.
Okay.
So,
What about your
um,
intake when you first got there?
so,
Did they walk you around or walk the
so I think it was, take off your clothes. I didn't have to spread eagle or anything. And I just went through a strip search at the wilderness program, I'm pretty sure. So that was not too foreign to me. I think maybe one of the, like, it was done by students, which
huh,
now looking back is strange.
yeah.
Um, uh, and I remember everything was done by the students. The dishes, the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, um, the yeah, everything was done by the students, which is strange. But Everything was done by the students.
What did the
And
staff do? They just stood around and watched,
it's
basically.
exactly what they did. That is exactly what the staff did. That is exactly what the staff did.
Talk about easy
Um,
money. You know?
so I think like the only like real work, like manual, like actual work there were a couple guys that were essentially construction workers that maintained the grounds, and did like the snow plowing, um, but that was it. That was like the only labor that was really done by staff. Um, yeah, that was really the only labor that was done by staff. I think actually no, that's not true. Terry did the floors. Terry did the
Okay.
floors. But it was he just buffed the floors. The students stripped and waxed them, but he buffed them.
Okay.
Um, and he drank a lot of coffee. Um, and yeah, and so like I really just all I wanted to do was just hide, right? So the one thing that I remember about being there is always being afraid, always being afraid of being found out, stood up. And I wasn't doing anything bad, right? I just didn't want to be stood up in front during the table topics. And
Uh-huh.
those were just ruthless, absolutely ruthless, absolutely ruthless. I can remember being stood up for something that I didn't do, then having to sit in the corner, and then as punishment, I had to memorize like a chapter out of like Romeo and Juliet and then recite it. Um,
Hmm.
and Paul Gear. That was a Paul Gear special. That was a
Oh my
Paul Gear
goodness.
special. And that was a Paul Gear special.
Oh man. Yeah, he's getting his own. He's getting his
Yeah, he's
comeuppance
he's
right
he's getting
now.
his. He's getting his.
Oh, hold on. Well, it says here, Margaret says July 9th, a lot of us will be there. Wait, nope, I'm sorry. Here we go. He should come to sentencing July 8th. Good.
Yeah,
Four of the six counts. A lot of
sure.
people, a lot of people who went to that school are very, very happy. It would have been better if it was all six, but hey,
Hey, it is what
we'll
it
settle for
is.
four.
Yeah,
We'll
for
take it.
sure.
So
Um, and what else do I remember?
do you ever remember the? Were you there when they were wrapping kids in rugs?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was insane. And like some of the kids,
Yeah.
like needed to be in hospitals. Like so, there was this one kid. I remember he just like loved to punch holes in the wall. Loved to punch holes in the wall. And they would slam him, wrap him in a blanket. Um, Trying to think if I ever was on any of those details where I had to watch people. Like so, then they had the kids watch them as they were wrapped in the blanket, right? Um, the students, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy. Um, and so that happened a lot. There was one student that was in my family. I want to say he was like wrapped in a blanket like all the time, like all the time. Um, I remember students not eating tuna fish. Um, and I remember eating. So, God, so I don't know if any other people that you've talked to have talked about the tomatoes that they would put in the salads.
I know. I don't
They
think
were
so.
they were always like half rotten. Like I can't like eat tomatoes and salads anymore. Like I haven't been able to eat tomatoes and salads since I was in school there, because they're just disgusting, and they were like
Yeah.
always half rotted. Oh, so many. So I remember like since you had to like eat them, like you had to eat everything on your plate. You had to eat these rotten ass tomatoes. Um, yes.
Any dressing to go with it, or
Oh, there was
just
dressing, but I mean, you saved the tomatoes for last because they're just so bad, or you ate them first. They're just so bad, so bad, um, so bad. God.
Did you ever
And
see
so
anybody? Did you ever see anybody have to eat something they regurgitated, as the papers would say?
I wouldn't be surprised. So I was in family 2 for most of my stay, and we were so like family 2 was pretty chill. Family 4, as I understand it, was pretty chill. What you wanted to avoid was family 1, and I'm trying to think who was family 5. And family 6. So family 1, family 6 were like a no-go. Those were a no-go.
Those are main troublemakers, or
Those had the staff members that were like about. So Paul was in 1 for a long time, and then when they opened family 6, Paul led family 6, and then so I can't remember who family 5 was. Yeah, I can't remember who family
I'm
5 was.
sure the people in the chat will let us know.
I'm sure they'll let us know.
Yeah, who did family? Who was leader of family 5? People in the chat, let us know. All
So
right.
no, I know family 1 was Robin and Mike, and then family 2 was Bob and Susan. Family 3 was Terry, Linda. Oh man, I can't remember. Can't remember Evelyn. I think Evelyn eventually moved to family 4. And then family 4 was Tom and Mary. Family 5 eludes me, and then family 6 was Paul, and I think Paul's wife. Maybe Paul's wife was there, and then Tony and Betty would. Maybe it was Mike. Was Mike family 5?
I don't know. Family
Anyhow,
5. Hold on. Family 5. Somebody put it here. Family 5. Ed.
Ed and
You
Linda.
can't remember.
Would be Ed and Linda.
Ed and Linda. Okay. I knew somebody would. Remember.
Ed and Linda, but I think Linda ended up leaving Ed. There's a whole like crazy thing that happened there that I'm not sure of the details. God, bring back so many memories. But yeah, so family 1, family 6. This is no bueno. No bueno. Lots of yeah. So, and another thing, like, so their whole thing was like shaming you into compliance.
Right.
That was the thing, was like standing up in front of everybody, shame you, yell at you. If you didn't act up like physically, like they would just shame the shit out of you.
Margaret says, do you remember when I ran away?
I think so. I remember when. I think so. Did you get caught or did you stay gone?
I don't know. She'll let us know.
I
think she got caught.
I do remember when some people ran away. They made it to California and then they got caught. They got caught. It was, oh my God, it was so terrible. So terrible.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was so far out in the middle of nowhere.
So far out.
You know what I mean?
So far
that's the one of the MOs of these places.
Well, not only that, like, so like, and then some of the like the staff members, like they put their kids in school there, and their kids didn't have any problems. They ended up in like some like their kids would end up in the quarters and all this other crazy shit. It's like, dude, like, what are you guys doing?
Margaret says, I got away and got caught in the city that I walked at 18.
Yep. Yeah. I do remember that part. And so I do remember, like, so I remember like turning 18 and I didn't walk, but like the fear at that point was like, okay, now they can kick me out. And my mom was like, you get kicked out, this it.
Yeah.
And so the last 4 months I was there, I was super scared about getting kicked out. I've been put in like family 6, right? So the last 4 months I was there, I got put in family 6.
One of the families you didn't want to go to.
This family you did not want to be in. Family did not want to be in.
And
Uh,
Paul Gear
Paul,
there?
Paul, Paul was the boss,
So you got
and
to
I want to say I was there maybe a month, and then I was put in the corner, um, and shamed, and then it was just so backwards, so backwards. Um, and around this time, like I want to say that like uh, yeah, it was so crazy, so crazy. And then
what about the other person that was running Family 6? Was she just more calm, kind of like a good cop, bad cop type of thing?
I can't remember her name. She had glasses. She was blonde. She was all right, ish. Um, I know a lot of bad stuff happened after I left, right? So there was that student that died, and then I happened to be
Oh,
in an outing. Christine, that's what
Christine.
it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I happened to be at an outing, at a social outing, and I ran into one of the current students here in Atlanta. Um, and uh, and and me and him became fast friends once he'd gotten out. And he was like, "Yeah, there was this kid that died." And after that, like things like kind of chilled out a bit. Um, I know that I mean, one of the things that happened is like, like a ton of people that graduated, like we all got in trouble again, and a bunch of us got in trouble together. Um, so after I left, um, I started getting high again, and I started messing up again. And one of the things that happened is I tried to put as much distance from myself between the school and where I was, right? So a lot of that time is like I've almost forgotten about,
Sure.
because it was that bad. It was that bad.
Well, Margaret says that Christine actually testified.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, yeah, that
Interesting.
was nice of her.
Sure. Um, sure. I'll have to see if I can find the court case notes. And
Yeah.
so I didn't see like, so I saw a lot of physical abuse. I didn't see any sexual abuse, but that's because if it happened, it probably, it was definitely done in the shadows for sure, for
Right.
sure, for sure.
It
Um,
doesn't say in the court. Well, I didn't read the whole court records, but from what I've seen in some of the news media websites, they just said that he took children across state lines and abused them. Didn't say if they were boys or girls. So I
sure. I
mean,
mean,
I
that
don't know.
wouldn't, so that doesn't surprise me. Um, I mean, I have a feeling like, so I have some suspicions about some people that he might have abused. I don't know for a fact, but there were like several people that he was very close with, super duper close with. That is super sketch, right?
Yeah.
Hindsight, looking back, it's like, okay, something could have happened here. Something could have happened here. Um, and he definitely had his favorites, and he definitely made it known for sure. Um, uh, and I don't want to make it sound like that, when I watched your I think it was you did like 10 minutes last week or no, it was an hour. It was like an hour.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And Margaret
so
came on. Yeah.
you played some of the news clips, and they made it sound like Paul was the only one, right? So the news clips made it sound like Paul was the only one that was like torturing these kids. That is not the case.
Right.
That is
He,
not the
but
case
he's probably the only one
whatsoever.
that took them across state lines.
I mean, so I am aware of another student that complained about another staff member that's not Paul, um,
Right.
that I've run into since since uh, uh, since I've left, right? That I've run into here in Georgia. Uh, so um, I know there's definitely been other accusations. I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. Like, to be a staff member there, you really didn't need very many qualifications. Um, Pretty much you just needed to be, I mean, you didn't even need to be in recovery, really. Um, uh, Now, there were some of the teachers that, were, uh, so there were a couple teachers that, because of what I learned from them, I ended up in my career, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up in my career choice. Um, Now, he was only there. I think he might have saw the writing on the wall and was like, "This place is fucked up," and he bailed. Um, he
Yeah.
bailed. I want to say he started working there maybe after I got there, and he taught math and chemistry. I don't know if he taught physics,
Mm.
um, and he might have been there a year, um, and then he left. But he
Okay.
seemed like he was pretty fucking normal. He seemed like he was pretty normal, so I would not be surprised if he was like was like, yeah, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not good. Um,
Margaret said 2 male victims, 1 female. 26 others came forward but weren't trafficked.
wow.
Wow, what a
Um,
sick man. What a
yeah.
sick man.
Um, that's not surprising.
Special place in hell for those people.
For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just remember wild shit like you know, convincing students that they were sex addicts, uh, and because they like to masturbate. It's like, bro, they're teenagers. This is what teenagers do.
That's true.
Um, just wild, and then like embarrassing them in like in front of everybody about it. Um, and I think one of the things that I thought about is like there were so many tactics that were like very similar to like cult like behavior, like separate them from their parents. Cults have like their own vocabulary, like sanctions, blackout,
Sure.
sit in the corner. And then what's even crazier is that as students we enforced it, right? We were the enforcers. And you know uh, we bought into it.
And
Or
not
at
to
least
say
I bought into it at the time,
right,
right?
and not to say anything
um,
bad about the other students, but some of them did it just to get by. That way they wouldn't be
sure,
targeted,
sure. I mean, that's what I
you
did,
know?
right?
Yeah.
So totally, like I totally was all about getting by.
Go with the program. That way you can get
Sure,
out as soon as you
sure,
can.
sure.
Yeah.
um, I think I realized towards the end of my stay that was not a good place to be. um, uh, and I got accused of. I remember thinking to myself, I started talking to people real compassionately, and then I got stood up, and then somebody said, "You have no compassion," and I said, "What are you talking about?" So towards the end, I became, what's the word? Disagreeable, but I wasn't disagreeable in being disagreeable. Like I wasn't an asshole. Um, and I think that started to get me into trouble, I believe. I remember, so it was based on the 12 steps. And I remember, doing some step work, and uh, my sponsor at the time telling me that like uh, I shouldn't behave that way because I had been at the school too long, or I was a senior member. Um, uh, and I just just like weird shit like that. And yeah, I remember sitting in the corner. I remember being on work sanction. Yeah,
Did your grades suffer because of these work sanctions?
my grades did suffer. Um, my grades did suffer. So fortunately, like, so we got report cards every month, which sounds ridiculous. It was actually probably one of the smartest things because it essentially allowed you to like do poorly and then like improve your grade point average very, very quickly, right? So my grades were failing the first time I was put on work sanctions. I think by the time work sanction came back around, like they had stopped doing that because I think I wouldn't be surprised if some of the parents complained. It's like, look, like you're at school and you're taking my child out of school and then they're failing.
Right. So what are
But
we talking? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, but my my family like had really, really high educational standards, like super, super high. So, and I always felt lots of pressure before and after to do really, really well in school. Regardless of like that was like, you know, number one for my mom. So
yeah.
And when I talked to her about it, like her excuse is like, well, you know, you know, she's always like, well, you know, you graduated and you got into a good college. It's like, well, I'm fucked up for the rest, you know, and she just doesn't understand it, right? So like I've tried to talk to her about it and she just doesn't get it, right? She just doesn't get how awful it was. And so yeah.
So these work sanctions were what were you like taking rocks, putting them somewhere else, or mowing grass, or
mowing grass? Did a lot of mowing grass. I remember sanding pews, right? Dish crew, table setting, scrubbing floors. Dish crew was the worst.
Cleaning toilets.
Cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
But you want to know what though? I think there was a crew that did the bathrooms. Crew students. I want to say I was not on that crew that often. So I want to say maybe the toilets were cleaned either before bed or maybe a couple times a day. And that was in the main house. When they got the big building, I think they just did the toilets maybe on the weekend, or like they went through them. They did a light cleaning during the week, and then like a deep cleaning on the weekends.
It just seems to me that, you know, in order for them to keep as much money as they can in their pockets, it's just to make the kids do everything. You know what I mean? So
sure.
What about your table topics? You ever have those?
Yeah, I did. I've tried
any memorable things
out of my mind as much as possible. A
lot of people have come on here and have said, those table topics.
I remember. So I don't remember what they were about, right? So I remember one of the last ones I had was I had cursed at another student, right? So something happened. I was upset. And I had said something like, what the fuck are you doing? Or like, don't be an asshole. And then like, as opposed to, and like, after I said it, I was like, fuck, I know this is going to get me. Sure enough, right? And so he wasn't my family, right? And so what you do is like, if you're going to bring somebody up that's not in your family, you have to go ask permission. You go over there. And he came over. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm up. And so he stood me up and I got completely dressed down by Paul. I remember apologizing. And then it led like somewhere into like, you know, because so everybody had a junior sponsor, which means you're sponsored by another student. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with 12 steps. You familiar with 12 steps recovery?
Not really, no.
12-step programs, right? So, all right. So a sponsor is, you know, in recovery, somebody that like shows you how to get sober, takes you through the steps.
Right. I know it's like your higher self or something like that, or higher being, or something.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's another part of it, but sure,
Yeah.
we'll go with that. We'll go with that, right? So, um, every student had a junior sponsor, which was another student, and then every student had a sponsor, which was a staff member. And so I had junior sponsees, and I didn't talk to them that often, didn't talk to them about program stuff. And so Paul like laid into me there, and then as a sanction, he was like, you need to talk to your sponsees every day, and then get stood up every day and report what your sponsees, what you talk to your sponsees about. And so I remember doing that, and then like one of my sponsees was in the room. He's like, I feel like you're just talking to me because you have to. And I was like, it's like, duh, of course. You as a human being don't need me to talk to you about your recovery every damn day. You've been here a couple of years. You don't need me to do that, right? So I mean, I'm in recovery now, and the people that that I've sponsored, right? I when they were new, sure, talk to them every day. So you got this, right? Just call me when you got some issues. So it's luckily like recovery is nothing like what I experienced when I was in high school.
Okay.
So
I've always found that this 12-step pro, or even people that go to these recovery places, let's say
sure,
for alcohol or for drugs or
sure,
even sex addicts or whatever,
sure,
any type of addiction. I think one of the problems is, and I might be wrong, if somebody can say, this is why, but let's say you're an alcoholic, right? You can't
sure.
stop drinking. So you go to these recovery places and all you're talking about is alcohol. You know, all you're talking about is what you used to do when you drank and all this other stuff. It's like, okay, well, you're never going to get better if you're constantly talking about your addiction. It just makes you crave it more. But that's my opinion. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I've been in a fair number of I've been in a fair number of hospitals
Yeah.
for drug and alcohol addiction, and um, I would say mostly what I talked about was trauma, right?
That's a different story. Yeah, that's a
So
different thing.
so there's definitely some programs here in Atlanta that are were world renowned. And did we talk about getting high? Sure, but it was mostly like, why? All right, you know, yeah, this happened when you're younger. Let's process this. Let's process that. Let's process this. Let's process that. Like, yeah, go to some meetings at night. Go to some 12-step meetings at night. But you know, in group, this is group therapy. We talk about trauma, right? So that was my experience at an accredited, well-renowned institution, right? So much different, much different
Environment.
facility and paradigm when it comes to recovery, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. When it comes to addiction or when it comes to trauma, there's two different things.
Sure,
That's
sure,
understandable.
100%,
Because talking about
100%.
trauma will, kind of
Sure,
it will help you when people are giving you advice and ideas on how to deal with it. That's
sure.
that's different.
I mean,
But
and so one of the things I experienced is a lot of times, like, you know, the people I was in the hospital with in groups with, they had never even voiced these things, right? So it's like, the first time these people are saying these things, right? So like, uh, it's definitely super therapeutic for sure. Um, I would say, part of the issue again with being at school was, sometimes some students would be like expressing like, yeah, I went through this, and then like they would be berated by the staff, uh, like staff saying, "Oh, you're such a whore," or like just shit like that, like just terrible, terrible things the students do, terrible,
yeah,
terrible things.
well, like I said, it just some of those people I believe from hearing from from other people that went there, they seem like sadists or sadomasochistic in a kind of a way. You know what I mean?
Um,
They took pleasure in hurting people mentally, physically. You know what I mean?
I would say, I was talking to somebody about it the other day. It's like power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So
Sure.
I'm a firm believer that there were probably some staff members that um, were interested in being helpful, but just soured, right? Like you have somebody that will do whatever you want, whatever you want. You can say what you want to them. You can vent your anger on them. And so, to be in that particular situation and to be a staff member, in order to be a successful one, I mean, you have to have a very, I would probably say, even keel. And they were not about hiring even keeled people. Um,
Right.
they were not about hiring professionals,
Some of them were probably family or friends of friends or something
Sure.
like
That's
that.
how a lot of it was.
With
A lot of it.
absolutely
Or like,
no
sure,
qualifications.
sure.
Yeah.
Or it's like, it's somebody that they met in a meeting, right? In a 12-step meeting, right? That's been sober a while that needs a job. I'm sure that's how a lot of those things happened.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
fact,
that happens.
I want to say that there was one staff member that we saw out at meetings that then became a staff member. And I definitely know of one or two staff members that who like they were super chill when they started, and then they became animals, right? Um, and then they became animals.
Well,
And
I have to say dealing with kids, whether it's, young kids or teenagers, that's a tough job. You know what I
it
mean?
is a tough job.
I mean,
It is a tough job.
you really need patience. You really need, you know, you can't have a hot temper. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Because the shit gets
sure.
wild.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
people,
and not only that, I mean, like, um, a lot of kids. So there were kids that did not need to be there, but there were a lot of bad kids.
oh yeah,
so, um, and that is,
patience. You got to have a good demeanor. I mean, you got to
sure.
be able to communicate correctly. And some of those people, from what I've heard, just didn't have those qualifications. You
I would
know,
say almost none of them. I would say almost none of
you
them.
know,
So I would say almost none of them.
that sounds about right. And you have something like that, pretty soon it's just going to boil over, and then you get stuff like Paul Gear. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure, sure. From my understanding, a lot of the other staff really wasn't too fond of him either. Um, uh,
Sometimes
so
people miss it, and then sometimes people can look at him and just go, "Wait a minute, something is not right with that guy." You know what I mean?
sure, sure. I mean,
So
and it's funny. Like I didn't realize till like so. You know, you see staff members in such a different regard, right? So like Paul Gear's only 12 years older than me, right?
okay,
He's not that old. He's 56. Um, and like when I was a student, when I was 15, you know, you just view these people as just completely like different light, that they're like real adults. Paul Gear was not an adult when he was hired. He was like 22, 23, right?
did
What
he
do
have
you know?
did he have
What
hair?
he did not. So when I showed up, he did not have hair. Or he had a huge bald spot.
Okay.
So he had a huge bald spot. No, he that's probably why I thought he was older.
Could be.
God forbid I lost my hair at 26. Oh, God forbid.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying before, there's some people that you just know, and some people that you didn't really know. It's like, oh man, he was. I didn't realize it.
Yeah. I
But
didn't realize that. I don't think I realized his age until until he was charged.
right,
Until he was charged with the crime.
a real short story for you. I knew a guy who was I played in a band with.
Mhm.
I played guitar in a band, and he was kind of fishy. Because he was always hanging around the young teenage boys all the
Sure.
time. We were always like, okay, something's up with this guy, But he was a choir director at church and all this other stuff.
Oh man, sounds like a familiar story.
Right. And it turns out
sounds like a familiar story.
2010 rolls around. I go and because he had a business where he did graphic design. He was a freelance graphic designer. So I went and checked on him, and there was no website. His website was taken down. I'm like, so I put in his name, and there he is. There's his mugshot. I'm like, turns out the kids that we thought he was, having something to do, he was bringing them to his house, having them mow the lawn, right? So after they mowed the lawn, he'd offer them a drink. Remember the Sobe drinks?
Oh my God! And he would
the coconut, he would drug the drink, and the kids would wake up with him on top, and he got 100, was it over 100 years?
Wow!
But the problem was, this is Texas too. You don't want to go to prison in Texas.
No, you don't. I had a friend of mine that went to prison in Texas. It was not okay.
They stacked the charges. They stacked the charges instead of running concurrent. Instead of running consecutive, they ran concurrent. So he ended up only serving 24 years.
He got out.
No, he got 14 years. I'm sorry, he got out this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised they didn't murk him. I'm surprised they didn't kill him.
Yeah. I'm surprised too. He's probably in the segregation unit, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he's well known around Texas. I mean, everyone wants to know he's from Buffalo, New York. Sure. So his name is Paul Pollock. I can say his name, Paul Pollock. Yeah, he looks like Gene Wilder. He's got this frizzy hair. Yeah, but so I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Especially if your name is Paul, I guess. Like,
right?
Your name is Paul. Oh man. Next person I meet when their name is Paul, I'm going to be like, oh my God.
Oh, it's going to go right back to that story.
It could be like, listen, man, I used to know this Paul.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. He was a horrible singer, but he was a good drummer. This guy why do these people gravitate to these schools? Because that's where the kids are. Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty much,
Sure.
I mean, it's even worse when you have if kids are disabled,
Sure. I also think, when you're repressed for so long and you're around like people you can take advantage of, you're going to take advantage of them, right?
Sure.
If you're just, just hands down.
You get the kind of a God complex or,
100%, man.
100%. Power trip.
And that is exactly what I feel happened at that school. And it's funny, like there were some staff members that, like, as I said, like it was very clear that they were not having any of it and they left, right? So there were like one or two that left while I was there. They were like, and now looking back, it was very clear that they were not all about this. They were like, you know what, I need to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, which is unfortunate because like, none of the students didn't have anybody to advocate for them, which is the other problem. Right. And so,
and also this was, the mid 90s. The internet was just getting started. It was in its infancy. There wasn't YouTube where people could actually post stuff, say, hey, this place is, or they didn't have websites where they're showing you the dangers of these places. Yeah. They didn't have that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So if people are still sending their kids to these schools, then it's their fault, because there's plenty of websites and information out there.
Sure.
To let you know which schools are good and which schools are not.
Sure. 100%. I would definitely say that I probably need to be someplace at that time. But I mean, I don't know, right? So like some people ask me, is like, if you had kids, what would you do? I'd be like, I don't know, but you'd be damn sure that I would know any place that I was going to send my child. I would know everything about.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, they really like to you sweet talk the parents, man. So like, you know, the parents come and they have some real senior students that are like really drinking the Kool-Aid, like myself, right? Show the parents around. And the parents are like, oh, these kids, they're behaved great, they're super respectful, they're very polite, you know. So they sweet talk the parents, and and then they hit them up, $30,000 a year, bring them. Um, and so yeah.
I have to say, Family Foundation School is not the only place that happened. A lot of
Oh,
places,
sure.
Agape, Rebecca, all these other troubled teen homes, when the parents go in there, they have those same people that show them around. They're really nice. Everything's nice and clean, and the kids are outside having a good time and happy and smiling. You go to their websites, there's pictures of them smiling, probably feeding a horse or something. It's like, oh,
Sure.
look how nice it is, not knowing that they're sending these kids into the lowest pit of hell. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
So
100%. 100.
deception. So
Never underestimate human greed.
yes,
Never underestimate human greed. So
and a lot of that human greed has cost lives,
sure.
not
100%.
just people that are emotionally damaged, but people that have actually taken their life or
Yeah.
lost their life somehow.
Yeah. I mean, you had that one student that jumped off the balcony.
Yeah,
There was a student while I was there who took how you have a ballpoint pen and then the cap has that little piece that comes off that's used to like clip. So the
right.
dude sharpened that on the floor, right? And then stabbed himself in the wrist, bleeding everywhere. They sent him to the hospital. They sent him back to the family school after he healed. It's like, oh my God, like this kid needs to be in a hospital.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's just crazy. Absolute
yeah.
craziness.
And the thing is, they have told people, parents, other people say, hey, these kids are troubled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if anybody has a beef and says, hey, this person is hurting us or they're abusing us, well, if they're troubled teens, they're going to lie. They're going to do anything they can to get out of here.
I mean, and how many? And if you look at the result, how many students have died, right, since they left? Hundreds, right?
Hundreds,
Um,
thousands over other troubled teen homes too.
yeah, sure.
Thousands.
So what exactly are we doing here? So
It's
yeah,
a vicious
it's
cycle.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
it
It's
just
absolutely crazy.
circular. It just keeps going back and forth, round and round, until somebody stops them, which they did.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
I
at
don't know
least
how.
one person,
Sure,
one person got
sure,
stopped.
sure.
So, and I hope his time in prison is long and miserable
And boring.
and boring.
Fucking boring.
Yeah,
That's the worst. The fucking boring.
and
Long and miserable and fucking boring.
now I don't know if he was tried in New York State. I don't know.
I want to say he was. I want to say he was tried in Albany, in a
Okay,
federal court, in a federal district
damn.
court.
I was so hoping they would send him to Rikers.
No, no, no. You've
I've
got
heard
to
that
be like New York City. You
I've
got to
heard
be
that
New York
place
City for
is.
that. Yeah, it's
I've heard that
terrible. It's terrible.
it's awful.
So but federal prisons, like we've got a terrible federal prison here in Atlanta, like real bad federal prison here in Atlanta.
Yeah,
And people, a lot of people say, "Oh, federal prisons is like
country
a
club.
country club." The one here in Atlanta
Yeah.
is not a country club. It is not a country
Well,
club.
yeah, because they're all different then. Because
Sure.
a guy I knew whose son got caught in a sting here in Wisconsin for child pornography. They sent him off to, was it Minnesota or Michigan? I can't remember, but a federal prison because it was over the computer, so it was
Sure.
federal.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would talk to his dad on the phone and say how bored he was, how they're making him work. And I'm like, why aren't they beating this kid up?
Yeah.
Why aren't they
Yeah.
doing some nasty things to him? I guess every federal prison is different, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it depends on like, so if you're in a minimum or maximum security, right?
Yeah.
Minimum security is going to be the country club. Maximum security is going to be like fucking terrible, and then super maxes, you're going to go
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
So
Well, supermaxes, I believe they it's almost like solitary confinement for
yeah,
everybody. They're only
23
out there.
hours a day.
Yeah.
It's the most. I
So,
mean, he's definitely not going to go to one of those.
but he would
But
probably be the safest there.
probably. But I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe I watched too many movies, but like, people get to you in prison.
That's true.
People will get to you in prison.
If they want to get to you,
You
they will
know,
get
they
to
want
you.
to get to you.
Yeah.
They'll get to you.
Oh yeah. They will find a way.
They will definitely find a way.
So, Sandy, how was your life now? I mean, I know you. Are you still going to therapy, or are you?
So I was hospitalized. So I've been sober like 23 years. So most of the time since I've been gone. So I left in 1998, and then I went crazy for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and then I got sober again. I've been sober, as I said, almost 23 years.
Good for you. That's good.
So, but yeah, so my life is spectacular. Great job. Sober 23 years. Uh, Life is fucking good. Life is fucking good. I was hospitalized back in 2015, and because you realize that you got other problems, right? So lots of anxiety problems, lots of like, one of the things that like I still suffer from this day is confrontation. Feedback at work like makes me super uncomfortable. Constructive feedback at work, like when I'm doing like my annual review, stresses me the fuck out. Somebody tells me I'm doing something wrong at work, fucks me up. And that is definitely a relic from when I was in school.
Right.
So being confronted, like I just like shut down and get real upset. Um, uh, I've kind of learned to just kind of navigate that, like, hey, you're upset, chill. Like this is fucking normal. Um, but that is definitely a relic from school. Eating everything on my plate, like that's a thing. The tomatoes we talked about. Um, but I was talking to somebody about this the other day because I was telling her I was coming on this podcast, and I've really have tried to like wipe that portion of my life out. Um, really tried to wipe that portion of my life out. And somebody had said to me, it's like, oh, you've gotten over it, you've gotten through it. I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, that part of my life has been put in its proper place. Has been put in its proper place. And you know, I can't speak for everybody because I know there's a lot of students that had way more trauma caused at that school than I did. As I said, like my MO, how I operate there was just try to evaporate into the wall as much as possible. You know, have people ask, "Where is Sandy?" Like he's nowhere to be found, right? Disappear.
Right.
That was how I survived there. That was really how I survived.
You don't want their
Um,
sights on you or targets.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
no.
Just
Uh,
blend in. Blend
I
in,
mean,
you know.
they would stand me up because it would be like 6 months since I had been stood up in front of in a table topic, right? So it's like, you know, Sandy, stand up, or Philip, stand up. You haven't been up in front of it. You haven't been at a table topic in 6 or 7 months. Um, and at those times, they would freak out, right? Totally freak out. Um, but life is good. Life is good. I could complain, but when I look back over the arc of the time since I've been gone, I don't want to say I'm blessed because that makes it sound like I've had been given extra stuff, but my life is fucking good.
Good.
Despite
Good.
despite the shit that I went through.
You
And
persevered.
persevered,
Yes.
despite the shit that I've been through. Um, so but I fucking get it, man. Like, that shit was that experience was no fucking joke. And there's classmates of mine that were there like 5 or 6 years. There was this girl that I want to say got there in like 92, and she didn't leave till like 98.
Oh my goodness.
She didn't leave till like 98. Maybe it was 93. She was there a long ass time. Long ass time.
That does a lot of
A lot of
emotional.
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Well, we're proud of you, Sandy,
Awesome.
for being who
Well,
you
thank
are
you. I appreciate
and being able to get through it, not totally unscathed,
No, not unscathed. Not
but
unscathed.
there are
But
some scars. But
sure.
you wake up in the morning, you're alive, you're getting through
Oh yeah.
life.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and it's been great talking to you.
Thank you, man. I
Great
appreciate that.
talking to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the
It's
work you do, you do God's work. So you do God's work. So you are awesome. So know that. No, seriously, man. You
yeah.
give all of us a fucking platform, and it's awesome. So do know that you are greatly appreciated for sure. For sure, for sure.
It started off with the Rebecca home, or was it the Bethesda? But if you ever want to know the epicenter of
Sure.
all these troubled teen homes, look up Lester Roloff.
Okay.
He's the one that started this whole troubled teen industry back in the like mid to late 50s
Okay.
in Texas. Yeah.
Was he a disciple? Was he a disciple of Synanon?
No, he was a so-called evangelist.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, he started this whole fiasco.
How did you get into this?
How did I get into it? I went to Lester Roloff's farm.
Gotcha.
I was at his school behind one of the troubled teen homes.
Gotcha.
And I talked to a lot of the Rebecca girls that were there, and you could tell they were having issues. And I decided in 2020, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast. Maybe I get some people from Troubled Teen Home, and I put it out on Facebook and some other social media sites, and all of a sudden the calls just kept coming in. I want to be on. I want to be on. I want to be on. It just blew up from there.
Sure.
That's awesome. And like I said, I try not to cut people off too much because I want them to tell the whole story of them. So that's why I don't really like to talk too much, but kind of I give you questions and stuff like that. But just let people listen to the story and just maybe some people can get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they relate to it. Some of them, or
yeah.
hope. Yeah,
they're not the only ones.
Sure,
definitely not the only ones.
And to the audience out there, if you were at a troubled teen home, my number, I'll just put it up right now. That way people can see it. It's right there. Text me. Don't call because I won't answer. This is not my real number. This is a text now number. So that way, you can text me and we'll set up a time. I got a couple more people that have already texted me and probably didn't get them on. One of them was from Family Foundation, but he doesn't want me to give his name yet. So, sure. But he wants to come on. So I'm gonna respect his wishes on that part. But some other people want to come on. So yeah, feel free. I usually do this on Mondays and Tuesdays because usually Mondays and Tuesdays, nobody's going to the club. Nobody's going out anywhere. They're all pretty much at home. You know what I mean? So, and I might make an exception and probably do like a Thursday or a Saturday or something like that if I have, because I have like 4 things going at once.
Sure.
With me. So.
When do you do your politics thing?
Politics.
Aren't you doing like a podcast with your homie about politics?
Oh, Dan?
Yes.
Well, whenever we get the chance.
Okay.
If anybody wants to come on as well and talk about it. But because there was a time there, probably about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4, where nobody was calling, nobody was texting me, nothing, and it's like, okay, I got to think about something here. What can we? Because I wanted to keep the podcast going, and then I heard about this Paul Gear guy, and it's like, okay, and then boom, it started back again. So,
Of course, I mean,
but
of course,
yeah, but
I mean, I'm
I mean,
sure people were sending that everywhere.
I'm pretty much up for everything. Any subject, whether it's troubled homes, whether it's
Sure.
politics, whether it's if you saw a UFO, I got one guy who saw a UFO who was on here. Anything. I mean, just if you want to tell a story, go ahead. You know,
Great.
it's fine with me.
Awesome.
So just to get it out. All right. So, Sandy, like I said, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Hopefully, maybe one of these days, because I can have at least 10 people on at the same time. Because I got this, I don't have this shitty internet anymore. It's fiber optic now, and man, is it fast. That's why I could stream on so many social media sites now. So, but I could have up to 10 people. If there's 10 people out there, I'll just put it out right now. If there's 10 people out there that were from the Family Foundation School, kind of like a reunion type of thing,
yeah, that would be awesome.
text me, and we'll set up a day, and all 10 of us will come on. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Margaret,
So
if you're still listening, I'm gonna get in touch with you.
I think she's still in there. Yeah, she's still. Yep. Oh, look at that. Look what she put.
Awesome.
Jason, give him my contact info. Okay, I'll send it to you on
awesome.
the email.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Margaret, I don't know if I have. I don't know what information. If it's your number or email, just just text me, and then I'll text that information to Sandy. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. I'm sure she heard that. So, and if not, then I will text her, and
okay, yeah,
I will
no
send
problem.
you the info. All right. So, have a wonderful evening, Sandy.
I will.
All right. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Okay.
You too.
We're all rooting for you, man.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Sandy once again for being on and telling this story, and everybody else out there who has told their story about their life at the troubled teen home. Greatly appreciated. I hope it's brought some therapeutic things for you as far as hope and stuff like that, and getting the word out there so that way no one else is caught up in this industry, you know. So, but like I said, anybody there who is at the Family Foundation, text me, see if we can get together. With me included, I can have at least 9 people. Okay. So we can have like kind of a reunion type thing. And anybody out there who's at Agape or Rebecca, if you were at Rebecca home or Bethesda home, let me know. I know my crazy life is on there. I can see her comments. So if you want to get all the Rebecca girls together or the Bethesda girls together, we can come on and have a reunion. All right. Okay. So you're welcome, Lumpy Pillows. Yes. Yes. It's always nice to give people a platform that they can speak. All right. So for the Hammer Podcast, everybody, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. You take care of each other. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you're on Rumble, follow the channel. If you're on Facebook, just go to the Hammer Podcast page and follow that as well. All right. So for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. You take care of each other. And we will see you. Make sure I got this here. We'll see you in the next video. Hopefully it's soon. I'll put out a event when it happens. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourself.